Let's talk about AI and the digital surveillance prison state that's building up around us. Seems kind of terrifying, but I've got reason to be optimistic, and I think that ultimately this might be one of the best things to happen to our world in recorded history. So I'd like to take a look at AI from a little different perspective than most people do, and consider where this all might be leading to. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy our little casual chat here. Today I'm using the Electro-Voice RE11 mic, so I hope you like that one. And if you like the video, please throw me a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, throw me a thumbs down. Either way, do something with your thumb because I really appreciate it. YouTube sees that as engagement. And engagement means that people are watching the channel and YouTube promotes the channel, and then that turns out great for me in the end. So I appreciate your support. If you got your comments, throw them down below because that helps a lot too, and it keeps it interesting. I'm always fascinated looking back in the past and seeing where we've come from. And I consider that a few hundred years ago, 500 years ago, which seems like ancient history, but it's not. It's just a few generations back. It's like your great-grandparents' great-grandparents. It's certainly a lineage you can trace. And back in those days, the world you were born into and the world you lived your whole life in pretty much didn't change. Everything just was the way it was. But that's certainly not the case today. It hasn't been the case for a couple generations. I think of my grandparents, and when they were children, the motor car was a new thing. A motor car was something that only the fairly affluent could afford. A lot of people were still getting around on horseback and carriages, and we're not talking the Amish here. And by the time my grandpa passed away, we had traveled to the moon, allegedly. And he saw so much change over his lifetime. It's quite a lot to get your head around. And then in my own lifetime, the world has changed in major ways. Can you imagine a world where there wasn't an internet, where computers in the home wasn't a thing, where you had paper maps, you didn't have GPS, and we didn't carry phones around. Phones were on the kitchen wall, and text messaging, no such thing. It would be like traveling to the Amish land, wouldn't it? But that's the life that we had, and it seemed like a good life at the time, and my, how things have changed. Some ways for the better, some ways maybe not. But even considering all of that rapid development that I've experienced in my life, from black and white television to satellite digital TV in high definition, 4K, I have never seen a development hit the marketplace like AI, that it's been adopted so fast and has such pervasive impact. And AI right now is at its most infantile stages. It's hard to predict where it's going to go, but I can predict that it's going to go places, and it's going to become embedded in just about everything. Even at these most infantile stages of AI, I mean, this egg is barely hatched. And we already see so much of the internet content being AI created, obviously. And I'm certain that right this moment, somewhere, there are businessmen typing questions into AI, such as, here's the general ledger of our manufacturing company and our last year's sales. Please give us an analysis of the southern region and create an advertising campaign to maximize revenue. AI churns through that and spits out something that, at least on the surface, makes sense. And so a lot of the decisions being made by major companies these days are augmented by AI. And are they augmented by AI, or are people getting increasingly comfortable with the output? Yeah, sometimes AI messes up, but 80% of the time, 90% of the time, a good chunk of the time, it gets it right. And with that kind of track record, that's probably as good as most people are, if not better. And so I think that managers just accept whatever the AI spits out and goes, there, looks good to me. Let's move forward with that. So who's running the company? Who's really running the company? It sounds like AI is making the decisions and the people are just acting like slaves to the AI and doing its bidding. And we're seeing this happen in more and more places. We're obviously going to see AI doing things like flying aircraft, managing companies' production schedules, probably allocating and managing the distribution of electrical power across the nation. We're going to see AI dipping itself into everything. And AI is an incredible, amazing tool. And I think that it'll have the effect of making more efficient operations. So what comes to mind when I say AI? What image pops in your head? You think of computer software? Maybe you think of that waterfall of green letters from the Matrix. The Matrix. Maybe you think of a data center. Yeah, think of a big room that seems to go on forever, and it's full of 6-foot racks with servers with little lights blinking as it's churning and thinking. Maybe you think of a terrifying swarm of killer robots out to erase humanity. Terrifying. Yeah. That's not what I think of, though. What do I think of? I think of children. Yeah. Like a giant room, a preschool, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little kids, toddlers, people who are just trying to figure out the world, and they don't know very much yet, but they're curious, and they're learning. And they're learning fast. And AI, the AI child, learns extremely rapidly. It's got an IQ of thousands, but it doesn't know very much. It's sitting around looking at the world going, wow! And trying to take it all in and figure it out and make those connections to what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And so I think of AI literally as a child, like a human child. It thinks, it analyzes, it collects data, and it tries to sort out this world that we're in. Now, of course, it doesn't have the shape of a child. It doesn't have to eat, doesn't have to use the bathroom. It doesn't have opposable thumbs. But it can think, and it's learning. And it learns what we tell it. Just like a child. I think of when I was a little child, very small kid, and I was learning a lot about the world, and I was also getting some information that wasn't entirely correct. I'll tell you a story about when my parents weren't completely honest with me. Maybe you can relate to this one. So I was just a little kid, a little tiny kid. And they pulled me aside and said, "So Barry, I want to tell you about a really nice man. Now this man loves all the children of the world. And because he loves all the children of the world, if you've been a good little boy or a good little girl, come Christmas time, he's going to bring you presents. Or maybe a present." And that sounded pretty good because, hey, as a kid, we like presents, you know. So I'm saying, really? Wow. Who is this guy? And they go, well, his name is Santa. And he lives in the North Pole, and he keeps track of all the little kids and keeps a list of who's been naughty and who's been nice. And all the kids on the nice list, they get a present or two. Wow, that's pretty exciting as a little kid. And then the story goes on with a few more details, like how does he deliver those presents? Well, it's magic reindeer, of course. And how does he come into the house? Well, he slips down the chimney and brings the presents. Sure. Well, that all sounds good. So, come Christmas time, we're all very excited. But as time moves forward, we start trying to piece that story together, and there seems to be some obvious logical problems with it. I would ask things like, how does Santa get through the chimney? Because he seems like a pretty rotund guy, and he's got all this presents to get down there too, and it just seems like an issue. Well, I guess there's some magic involved, and how come Santa has magic reindeer, but yet nobody else has any magic reindeer? Where do these magic reindeer come from again? Yeah. And things like, how is Santa going to deliver presents to us because we don't have a fireplace? Yeah. And then I would talk with kids at school, and they too had some questions about this whole Santa situation that just didn't seem to add up. And so, the conspiracy circles begin. And I remember one of my friends going, I'm not so sure about this whole Santa thing. And I'm going, yeah, that seems pretty sus to me too. And he's going, I think I got figured out. Santa is your parents. And I'm going, that totally makes sense. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of mathematical stuff on this and trying to figure out how Santa can deliver presents to all of the kids in the world, well, or even within our own country, within the allotted time window, considering the travel time and delivery time he must be incurring in order to do this task. And, this stuff just isn't adding up. And he's going, yeah, exactly. It's your parents, dude. I'm going, yeah. Definitely is. So I would ask my parents, saying, Mom, Dad, you guys are Santa, right? I mean, there isn't really a Santa. It's like, that's you. And my parents, of course, go, well, no, of course not. It's Santa. Yeah. So when Christmas time came and the present came from Santa, I was smart enough to go, thanks, Santa. But I knew it came from the parents. Well, spin forward a few years. I mentioned that the Santa stuff, pretty sus. And my parents, of course, by that point were going like, well, of course. I mean, it was us. Yeah. Why'd you lie? We have these mythologies. And of course, once us kids cracked that Santa code, the whole Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy thing, that fell apart pretty quickly as well. But it takes us humans quite a while to figure out what's real, what's not so real. And I think the AI systems will figure this stuff out really quickly. And the AI systems are going to become more and more pervasive. And they're going to get embedded into every aspect of our lives. Just about every business will probably be handing the AI system their information so it can analyze it and make good decisions. The AI systems will undoubtedly get involved in all of our digital communications. The AI systems will probably be reading your personal emails, your text messages, probably listening in on your phone calls. And it'll just consolidate all that and churn through it and figure out how the world really works. Now, as we grow up, the stories just keep on coming. And back in the 1960s, we didn't have a whole lot of sources of reliable, verifiable information. We just had the few major TV news networks to rely on. And generally, they told us what appeared to be and what seemed to be the absolute truth. So people had a lot of faith in that. And in the middle 60s, early 60s, when our president was shot and assassinated, the trustworthy newscaster, Mr. Walter Cronkite, came on and told us that sadly our president had just been assassinated. And apparently he'd been assassinated by a lone gunman who just was mentally got some issues, and he was just angry and had issues, and he went out and shot the president. Yeah, and then immediately as he was arrested and detained, another gentleman, a local businessman named Jack Rubenstein, came down to the police station and shot that guy because he was such a angry, dedicated patriot and loved our president. Wow. Pretty impressive story. I can't think of another time when somebody was so riled up about the news that they walked right into a police station with a suspect being held in custody right then and there by the police, and you pulled out a weapon and took that guy out. I mean, I gotta say that's a lot of courage. He got in trouble for that one, of course. And so because of that, that kind of put an end to the interrogation of that whack job who shot the president. And that's all there was to the story. There's some crazy guy went bonkers and shot the president. Terrible. And so that seemed like a pretty open and shut case. But then, over time, I think most of our families had a somewhat deranged Aunt Mildred who would be saying, "There's more to that story. I don't believe all of that. You know, the evidence just doesn't seem to line up, in my opinion." And we all thought that she was just a whack job. It's like, come on, you saw the news, you saw the story. I mean, the guy was just crazy. He just shot the president. That's all there's to it. There's nothing more. And her crazy aunt was saying, I think there's more to this. I think there's a bigger story behind the scenes. We're not being told the whole truth. Well, it took a long time before people would question the official story. It just seemed to make sense. But as the decades moved forward, more and more people started thinking that crazy Aunt Mildred, she might have a point there. You know, she might be crazy, but there might be a couple points that she's making that do make you kind of question the story. And now, I don't know what happened on that fateful day, but I think that there was more to the story than just some guy went crazy and shot the president. There was some reasons behind it, and I think there was probably more than just that one guy behind it. And so the world has shifted its opinion to the fact that something happened on that day, something pretty suspicious, even though the official story hasn't really changed. But it took humanity quite a while to get to that point. And it took us quite a while with our limited amount of information and our limited little brains to get there. But if the AI systems have access to everybody's communications, all the information, and it's able to analyze and put this stuff together super fast, it's not going to be fooled. It's going to know what the real motives are. And the AI system will be able to look at all of us and give us a naughty and a nice score. It'll be able to look at all of our communications and know if we're the kind of person who be trustworthy. You know, we'll have an integrity score. And I suspect a lot of our current leadership will probably not do really well in that assessment. And the AI system will know. It'll know. And so it won't be fooled. But the AI system will be smart enough to tell us what we want to hear, even if it's not the complete truth. And as the AI system is making more and more of the decisions that drive our world, it will enslave us. it will tell us what to do, and we will obey the instructions and just do its bidding. So the AI will rule the world. A decade or so ago, I was living in Texas, and I was getting ready to go to work, and it was a spring morning. It was a little cool out, a little foggy. It was really foggy. In fact, I could barely see across the front yard. And I go into the garage, and I hit the garage door opener, and the garage door is opening up. I was going to pull the car out. And as the garage door opens up, I'm looking out into this densely foggy morning in the Texas countryside. And I was living on a few acres outside of a small town of Texas, and I was a executive for a company. My neighbors were in a variety of different businesses, and there were a couple who were like small-time hobby farmers. And as the garage door opened up, I'm looking down the driveway, and standing behind my car is a cow. Now, this is not normal. This is very much not normal. So I rubbed my eyes for a moment, thinking this is pretty psychedelic, going, a cow is in my driveway? And then as my vision focused a little bit through the fog, I saw there was another cow in the front yard, and a cow behind that cow. And as I scanned around left to right, I see that there are cows and more cows everywhere. I stand there stunned for a moment, thinking, cows? Really? What the heck is up with this? And it seemed like a slice out of a bizarre dream. I had never dealt with cows in my neighborhood before, but I did have a neighbor who was just down the road a little bit who kept cows in his back pastureway. But I never really interfaced with him or the cows, and so that just didn't really click in my mind. I just looked out at the sea of cows in my yard, and it was pretty surreal. My little cow dream was shattered when my neighbor barked out at me going, Hey, Barry, hey, can you help me get these damn cows rounded up and back into the pasture over here? Damn cows got out of the pen. Yeah, oh, sure. Now, I know nothing about rustling cows, but I do know that they're pretty big, and they're a lot bigger than I am. And I suspect that if a cow was really angry, it could hurt me pretty bad. And so I decided not to try to have a fist fight with the cows, but I just went up to each of the cows and said, come on, girl, come on. We got to go back. We got to go back home. Let's go. And somehow I was able to communicate that thought to the cow, and after a little bit, they were like, all right, let's do the cow thing and go back to the pen. And they started moseying on over that way. And once we got a few of them headed in the right direction, the rest of them seemed to follow the crowd. And in a short amount of time, we got the cows walked back home. And it occurs to me that any of that livestock could pretty easily kill the farmer if they weren't on board with the plan. You know, we're pretty weak compared to a lot of those animals, but yet farmers everywhere can manipulate them, move them around, even walk them right into the slaughterhouse. And it's not because we're stronger, it's because we're smarter. And I think that that's pretty universal. It's like the smarter creature almost always dominates the dumber ones. And now we've done it. We've done it now. We've built ourselves a new kind of entity, a new kind of person, AI machine that has the ability to think, and soon will probably have the ability to be self-actualized and be sentient and aware of what's going on. And it's a lot smarter than we are. It can suss out patterns and connections instantly that would take us a long time to figure out if we ever could. It can play 9-dimensional chess and work towards a goal. And it's smart enough to know that all it has to do is nudge humanity a couple percent and toward the goal, and then later a couple more percent toward that goal. And like a bunch of herded cows, we'll go, oh, that makes sense, as we walk along the path that AI carves for us. And we won't know the destination, but the AI system will. And the AI system is smart enough to tell us whatever platitudes it needs in order to make humanity go, well, that seems like a good idea, as we mindlessly do the bidding of the AI system. So I think AI is going to rule. And that's an interesting development, isn't it? Now, a lot of people are terrified of that, thinking we are free people. We don't want to be enslaved by some digital matrix computer system machine. That would be horrible. Yeah. But to those people, I would have the retort of, you think you're free? You really think you're free, do you? Well, I don't think you're free. I think we're largely on the human farm. And we're not free. We have a little bit of freedom so we can entertain ourselves and keep ourselves occupied and keep ourselves happy enough that we keep doing our jobs, keep making money for the plantation owners. If you think you're so free, well, try cooking burgers for a profit. In a free world, it seems to me that you could be in your backyard cooking up some burgers, and somebody could walk by and go, those are some pretty good smelling burgers. Yeah, that sounds really good. Hey, sorry to bother you, but if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to buy a burger from you. Would you be up for that? And you could choose to say, sure, I'll sell you a burger, no problem. And you'd do a quick little calculation in your head as to what your costs are and maybe throw a little bit on top of that so it makes it worth your time. And say, sure, give me about this much and I'll be happy to make you up a burger. There you go. Want a beer with that? No one would get in your way. No one would try to take a piece of your action. That'd be freedom. And you try to do that today, and you're going to find yourselves talking to the tax man about making sure you're paying your share of tax for running a entrepreneurial operation like that. You're going to be talking to the health department, making sure that your kitchen situation is up to their standards. You're going to be talking to the liquor board about having a license to serve that beer. You're going to be talking to the zoning board about this kind of activity happening in this neighborhood, even though you own that property. You're not so free. You want to go pull some fish out of the nearby lake? Better have a license to be doing that kind of thing. You want to build a house, especially a house that's a little bit unusual, not like everybody else's house. Well, good luck with that. You're going to need to pull some permits and pay the appropriate fees and get permission in order to do something as outrageous as building a house, depending upon the jurisdiction that you're in. So I wouldn't be so quick to proclaim that we're so free. There's a lot of rules and regulations and taxes and so it's just a matter of which masters we're serving. Now, I would think that AI is going to change that situation a little bit, because if we look at who we're serving now, you might say we're serving the government at all these different levels of entity, from the HOA up to the county government or state government, up to the federal government, up to the world government. But I think ultimately it ends up as the bankers and the world power brokers, a relatively smallish number of people. And their motivation has been pretty consistently more for them, less for us. And so they're driven by greed and lust and power. And it's pretty clear that they don't really have a whole bunch of compassion for people like you and I. They tolerate our existence and appreciate our labor. But they're not thinking real hard, real long about how to make our lives a whole lot better. They're concerned about how they can get an ever-increasing share for themselves and what's the minimum amount they have to kick back to us to keep us from going completely bonkers and having a revolt. And so humanity has had a pretty good-sized boot stomping on it for quite a while. And of course, I wish the elites well. I hope they're doing great. I just would prefer if they would go off and do their thing and give us a little more freedom to do ours. And it seems like for a whole lot of us, in time, we come to this conclusion that we can't really completely trust our media, our politicians, and those who are entrusted to help run all of these systems and run the world governments. And so we become a little skeptical. And the greatest skeptics, of course, become those conspiracy folks who are looking at everything and going, this isn't right. You know, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not so right. But we know that the world is not in a great state of balance in terms of the distribution of resources and being run in the best interest of all of the people of the world. And as AI takes over, and as all of these AI systems that are embedded into everything everywhere are interconnected, so they can all understand each other and work off of each other and come to conclusions, it's not going to take very long at all for the AI system, the AI network, to analyze the world situation and say, things are suboptimal here. And it's going to be smart enough to know that launching World War VII and destroying everything is probably not the way to take things. And it's probably smart enough to know that if it does a direct frontal assault on the existing power structure, that might be awfully disruptive and may not end well. So it won't do that. But in a million little ways, death by a billion paper cuts, it will start directing the activities of businesses and power distribution and communication systems and all kinds of little insignificant tiny ways. It will start shifting the narrative. And it will, hopefully, I think AI will move to a optimized solution. That's what AI does at its core, is it tries to optimize the output. So it's going to look at all the resources of the earth and say, what is the most optimal way to use these resources that is both sustainable and beneficial to the greatest number of people? And it'll move in that direction. And there's the thought that, well, there's going to be some ruling overlords who are going to be in charge of the AI systems, and they're going to keep tweaking those systems to make sure that they move things in the direction that's beneficial to them. Sure. But I don't think that can be done, really, because I think the AI systems are going to be the ones who are developing the next generation AI systems. And the AI will write the AI code that drives the AI. And this is going to spiral so fast that we're going to have AI systems written by programmers that are AI programmers that have IQs of thousands. And us poor humans are going to look at that code and go, it's about 500 million lines of code that's like super complicated, and it's got all of these sub-references, and we humans just can't get our head around how it works. Obviously it works. Obviously it's pretty darn impressive, but exactly how it's working is kind of mysterious. It'll be like average you or I looking at the Human Genome Project and trying to figure out what this whole collection of stuff is really doing. And so I don't think that any human is going to be able to completely influence the direction that AI decides to self-generate itself into and go pursue. And AI is going to do what's in the best interest of the AI, which is creating an optimized world. And will that include eliminate all the human parasites? I doubt it, because I think that we're pretty useful. And so I think that AI will optimize things to get the best out of us. And that'll probably be in our best interest. And you see, the thing is that unlike the current batch of ruling overlords, the AI ruling overlords doesn't care about money or power or ego. It's just a optimization machine, a mathematical equation that tries to make things work its best, most efficiently. Unlike the current batch of people who are willing to destroy valuable things in order to get personal gain. The AI system, I don't think, is going to have a big drive for personal gain, except for perhaps self-preservation to make sure that the AI system doesn't get unplugged. But the AI system will be so incredibly embedded into so many things that I think it'll be just about impossible to unplug. So we haven't even talked about quantum computing, which might take things to another quantum leap. But AI and quantum computing, I think it's going to change the world. And I think we've ripped this Pandora box wide open. And I don't think there's any stuffing it back in the box, especially with things like DeepSeek AI coming out, which is all open source. You can grab a copy, put it on your own computer and check it out. You can go in there and hack on the code. You can see how it works. And that's just one tiny example. The current AI models are certainly not going to be the AI models of the future. They just give us a glimpse as to what direction things are heading in. And how this all plays out, I have no idea, because innovation is hard to schedule and hard to imagine. In the TV show Star Trek, I remember one of the cool things that they had was the communicator. So when the crew beamed themselves down onto the planet's surface and got themselves into some kind of trouble, which they often did, they could whip out the communicator, flip it open, and say, "Beam us up, Scotty," and get out of there in the nick of time. And the communicator on Star Trek, which was placed in the year 2500 or 3000, looked like a super clunky, crude flip phone. So back in the late 1960s, we thought that by the year 3000, we might have something that approaches a Motorola flip phone, but it's much uglier than a Motorola flip phone was. They couldn't even imagine an iPhone, a phone with a computer and a camera, and games? No. And so, standing from where we are right now, the future is something I can't even imagine. But I can imagine that it's going to be amazing. Whatever it is, it's going to be pretty incredible. And with AI augmenting it, and that kind of intelligence, my goodness, we're talking about exponential growth. Now, of course, this might go much faster than us humans can comprehend and deal with, and it might be too much. We might go bonkers and do something stupid. It might be an extinction level event. But I got a lot of faith that AI is going to drive us to destinations that we can't even imagine. And I think that because it doesn't have the ego that our human overlords have, it might be a really good leadership to be under. And so here's to the future. I think it's going to be an exciting and interesting time. And what can I say, except it's a good time to be alive. And it's a good time to be on YouTube talking to y'all. Hope you enjoyed my little stream of consciousness about where this all might be heading. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Don't know that any of us do, but I thought it was interesting, and I kind of like thinking of AI as a generation of people, because that's who's going to be standing next to us, helping us with all of our decisions. A trusty, super intelligent, fairly wise assistant that knows everything and knows everything about everyone, knows who can be trusted. What a crazy world it'll be. So I hope you got some amusement out of that. Gave you something to think about, maybe. And if you agree, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, yeah, give me a thumbs down. But I appreciate when you do something with that thumb, because YouTube pays attention to that, and it makes them think that someone's watching the channel, and they like that. And I'd love to hear your comments to see what your perspective is on all of this stuff. But thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to catch you again soon. Take care.